All right. Give me 1 second. All right. So, peace and blessings to everyone out there watching. I wanted to kind of do something a little bit different with the ambiance. As you can see, we got the room a little dimly lit. We got some candles going. I wanted to kind of take a moment to just experiment with a different vibe simply because this is kind of sort of similar to what I normally do, but a little bit different. Um, Today we're going to discuss how to overcome heartbreak. We want to discuss how to overcome heartbreak because that's something that people go through all the time, and actually being mindful, meditating, looking within yourself is a means of helping you to overcome that. But there is a specific process for going through heartbreak and coming out the other side better, stronger, wiser. Um, and just, full disclosure, I'm kind of doing this right now because I went through heartbreak recently. Um, my wife and myself are separated right now. Very tough transition. You basically have to live an entirely new life, have to see things very differently, schedule things differently. Um, I see my kids every day, but it's a little rough walking out the door and have them asking me why I have to leave and having to have that conversation with them repeatedly. It's rough. It's tough being a father and being a husband. And things are different. There's a separation in the family now. And the physical separation, of course, is going to lead to an emotional separation, shifts in the emotional landscapes, how we interact with one another, how we communicate. It's tough. And it was very, very rough on me over the last few months. But at the same time, it was one of those things that I decided to utilize as a means of learning more about myself and empowering myself to the best of my abilities. I know that my camera might not be the greatest. I'm trying to adjust it so you guys can see me somewhat clearly because I don't want the light on. I want to have a nice groove. I want to have a nice chill environment. So essentially, let's get back to what I was saying. Heartbreak. Things come to an end because we naturally find attachment and have attachment styles. When our relationships come to an end, it is probably, you know, the roughest. The only thing really harder than heartbreak in a relationship or changes in a relationship is probably the physical loss of someone through death. I know that when I lost my father at the age of 21, that was rough for me. The separation, I would say, probably might have been, well, it wasn't as bad, but separation is definitely up there as far as shocking and I would say even potentially traumatic experiences. And I know for a fact that I could have gotten swallowed up whole by the sadness, the shift in the situation, um, and looking at myself and looking at my marriage and seeing things from a new perspective, trying to see, not just see where things went wrong, but also see how I can improve myself. It's a tough process, it's a long process, but the process doesn't necessarily have to be without its value, and it doesn't necessarily have to be grueling and painful and terrible and all of those things. Even when things are hard, you can still learn, you can still benefit. So I'm here today to talk about how I personally began a process of healing from the heartbreak. And it took some time. It took some time, and I'm still looking within myself. I'm still finding strength, still trying to move forward, still trying to make things happen. Um, and like I said, it's gonna take. It took some time to get to where I am now, where I feel, much more confident and much more optimistic. But it's gonna take even more time before I'm completely back to my or actually not even back to, but until I evolve to a new stage and a new phase of my life. Um, so today we're gonna go over a process of trying to understand a little bit how to heal. Typically, when I do these lectures and speak, I try my best to put as much research into it as possible. But this time around, I didn't really research anything. I just looked at my life, and decided I wanted to make things better. And because I made that decision, I decided what process. I figured out what process I had to go through, and the process I went through to experience the pain, deal with the pain, and overcome it. So this is real. This is from the heart. These are experiences that I had that are true, true to life. They're not just fantasy. They're not just scientific research. This is something that came out of my soul, out of my personal experiences. So let's begin. From what I've seen and experienced, there's 5 ways to overcome heartbreak: mourning the loss, filling the space, making and fulfilling promises to yourself, forgiveness, and relearning the experience of joy. And we're going to go through each one step by step. The first one is necessary: mourning the loss. When you end the relationship, when you have a breakup, when you're going through something painful, it's very important that you understand that you're not going to immediately just bounce out of that. So many of us have been trained to ignore our emotional experience. So, especially as men, someone breaks up with you, you feel sad, you're taught to, well, you know what, let's just move on. We can find somebody else, put any other fish in the sea. Let's have some drinks. Let's go to the strip club. We use every available resource around us to pretend like we don't feel anything, especially when it comes to intimate relationships. I think it's very unfortunate that you really grow up as a male, as a man, not having anybody you can talk to about how you feel, unless you're paying a therapist. But it's very rare where my friends will come to me and say, "Yo, my girlfriend broke up with me. I feel sad about it." And I don't do that very much either. I might go to somebody and tell them about the experience, but of course that becomes a ritual of debauch. Unfortunately, it becomes a ritual of, hey, you know what? Let's have some beers. Me and my wife are separated. Let's listen to some rap music really loud and not think about how I feel. I don't think I've expressed to anyone how I feel. And that's unfortunate because to an extent you're kind of trying to hold back those really hard to deal with emotions. And when you hold back emotions, guess what happens? It's like holding back the flow of a river. You put a dam in the middle of the river, and if the dam doesn't let some of the water through, what happens? The water accumulates, and eventually you have a flood. And so that happened to me. Like a lot of males, you try to block out the emotions that you're experiencing. You try to pretend like you're not going through it. You try to get intoxicated, or some people might get high or what have you, or you might engage in an affair, but the emotions are not being dealt with and you're not healing. So what eventually ends up happening is the pain accumulates and it becomes overwhelming, and you end up falling into a state of depression or a state of high anxiety, or unfortunately for some people something worse. You might fall into a state of having intense self-doubt, suicidal ideations, low self-esteem, horrible self-concept. There's a lot of things that can go wrong when the emotions are not dealt with so that you can heal. There's a lot of people running around who have not healed from heartbreak, and some people may not have healed from heartbreak from decades ago. I'm 40 years old now. I get complimented where people say I look a little bit young. I don't know what that's about, but I'm 40 years old now, and I know individuals who are 40, 45, whatever, who are still angry and upset about things that happened to them in their 20s or even their teenage years. I know some guys who still haven't even gotten over rejection that happened to them when they were 17, 18 years old. And they still keep repeating the same mistakes and keep blocking out the emotions through a wide variety of activities, but it doesn't get them anywhere. And you don't heal, and you keep making the same mistakes over and over. So it's very important that you allow yourself to mourn. And it's going to hurt. But it's strange how we, as men, will take physical pain. One time when I was working out when I was younger, something happened and I was angry and I punched the refrigerator so hard I left the dent of my knuckles in this metal refrigerator. And I didn't even mind. My knuckles were throbbing. I didn't care. But when it comes to dealing with emotional pain, oh no, I can't do that. No, that's too much. Because we haven't been properly trained to acknowledge the emotional aspect of our consciousness, and we don't know how to handle these feelings. That's one thing that makes anybody uncomfortable, being in a situation where you don't know how to handle something because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And the emotional outcome quite often can be more terrifying than a physical outcome. Because the emotional outcome, you don't know what you're facing if you're not properly trained to analyze your emotions or even acknowledge your emotions. You could be hurt by something, but that word hurt is not often used by people. We can say angry, I'm angry. We can say, yo, I'm so mad right now. frustrated, but hurt. That's a difficult one for people to acknowledge because hurt means you were vulnerable. Hurt means that you put yourself in a situation where you allowed someone else to have power over you because of your attachment to them. And I think that's a big part of the reason why there's so many people out there, male and female, men and women, who are now just kind of throwing relationships away. They kind of want to mingle with the opposite sex, but in a way that is strictly sexual. They want to mingle with their significant others, but in a manner that doesn't even get to the root of who you are as a person. And so you could be in a relationship with an individual and they don't know anything about you, really. You just want to lay with them and have sex with them, and they want to lay with you and have sex with you. But the interaction part is very, very difficult because so many of us just really don't know how to make those connections and don't know how to acknowledge our emotional dimension. You know, we can acknowledge everything else. The need for finance. We can acknowledge aggression, competition. We can acknowledge physical pain, but emotional pain, we don't know how to, we won't even verbalize that most of the time. And unfortunately, what happens sometimes is that when you try to, somebody might not know how to handle that. Man, I'm hurting so much because of my separation, and you know, I've been greeted with bottles of rum, bottles of beer. I don't think I got a hug yet, and I don't mean to sound, I don't mean to sound too anti-masculine, but I haven't gotten a hug yet. I don't think anybody's hugged me and said, you know what, you're gonna be all right, bro. How you feel? You all right? Actually, no, that's not true. I didn't have a friend. Shout out to my boy Lou. He did ask me if I was okay. I think my boy Rafi asked me if I was okay. But for the most part, I think that my boy sincere. So I'm telling a lie. That's 3 people who mean a lot to me who actually reached out to me to make sure I was emotionally okay. So shout out to my circle of friends. I salute you guys. I thank you for your support. But honest truth of the matter is that I know plenty of times in my life where I didn't have that emotional support, and I couldn't reach out for it either. I don't want to blame anybody else. I couldn't reach out for it. That was a major issue. And then when I did try to reach out for it, I guess maybe the way I did it, or maybe just the environment I did it, or maybe just all of our training, my collective network of friends, all of us were trained in a way where we weren't able to handle the emotional stuff. We can give each other, sometimes we give each other some tough love, and we do like a rough psychological analysis, but an emotional analysis, and acknowledging our pain, acknowledging our insecurities, and acknowledging the things that make us frail and vulnerable, it's hard. It's very hard. And so you end up bottling all this in without dealing with it. If you lose something that big in your life, whether it be a relationship, marriage, friendship, when you lose something that is that big a part of your life, when you lose something that big, you have to mourn. You're going to, whether you want to or not. That's just the natural state of your psyche, the natural state of human interactions. There's going to be a sense of loss or the sense of mourning, and you have to let it happen, and you have to acknowledge it, and you have to work your way through it. Trying to ignore the physical, so the emotional pain is extremely unhealthy, and it makes it impossible to heal. And there's a thing called relational interdependence that says that if you're with somebody for a long period of time, they kind of become a part of you. Your behavior is influenced by the presence of this other person in your day-to-day life. Your thoughts are influenced by the presence of this person in your day-to-day life. So once that person is gone from you, then guess what? You feel as if you lost a part of yourself. And then for some of us, it feels like a waste of time to mourn for ourselves, to mourn the loss of us. Yes, breaking up in a relationship when you invest so much into it and you really care about somebody and love someone, the loss of the relationship is like losing a part of yourself. And that's something else, another dimension of your mourning that you have to acknowledge. Because if you can't acknowledge that you lost a part of yourself, you'll never regain that part of yourself. So now you were with somebody who meant the world to you. Now you guys are separated. So guess what that means? There's a space in your thinking, a space in your emotions, space in your life. Sometimes with a separation, you find yourself in a whole new space. You're in a whole new environment now. You're in a new place now. So there's space, physical space, mental space, emotional space. And what happens when we have this space? We usually try to fill it. And that brings us to part two. Part two, the next point, point number 2. You have to fill the space. And usually when you go through heartbreak in our culture, how do we deal with heartbreak? Well, when there's that empty space inside of you, we try to fill it. But we live in a culture that tells you that you can fill emotional space with intoxicants. Or you can fill emotional space with just random sexual activity. Or, in my younger days, when I had that emotional space inside of me, I would fill it with very bizarre and aggressive forms of behavior. So now you're in a situation where there's this space inside of you, so you have to fill it. And how do we fill it? Quite often we fill it with with beer. Let's drink some beer. Let's drink some whiskey. Let's take some shots. Let's go out. Let's meet some women. I want to meet a replacement right now. I lost somebody who meant the world to me. I'm not gonna find somebody like that anytime soon. But you know what I can do? I can have sex with a bunch of chicks and take my mind off of it, right? And I've never personally never done that, but that's something that people do. That's a way for individuals to fill the space. Um, but unfortunately, filling the space with things that are not gonna empower you, things that are gonna drain you, can first of all leave you unhealed. You engage in all this activity, sometimes potentially reckless activity, but you're not going to heal. So the thing about it is that if you're going to fill the space with healing light, healing energy. What is healing light, healing energy? Activities that allow you to awaken your own sense of empowerment and refresh you. Meditation. Now, of course, we have to understand, and I just read this in a book by Lama Yeshe. He was talking about how quite often we have issues in our lives and we try to sublimate our problems, meaning that we'll if you break up with somebody, you try to put positive, you probably put your energy into something positive like working out. Nothing wrong with that. However, you have to sometimes understand that you have to go deeper than that. Now, of course, use that negative energy for something positive and powerful. I'm all for that. But as the Lama pointed out, you have to go beyond that and understand the true nature of yourself and the true nature of mind, and that's an important part of the healing process. Looking at why you feel the way you feel, analyzing what's the reason why you were so deeply attached to this person, and understanding how the mind operates in bringing about attachment, bringing about desire, bringing about this strong sense of self-destruction when you're disappointed. Ask yourself those questions, because yes, I'm all for sublimation. I'm all for sublimation as a bridge to a deeper understanding of yourself. And while you're in that state where you need to fill that space and fill that void, yes, fill it with positivity. Work out. Eat better. Read more. Those activities are not dangerous, they're not self-destructive, and you'll learn. But also, it's very important at this stage to fill the empty space with a deeper understanding of yourself. So that means you're going to have to spend time looking at yourself, analyzing yourself. Don't worry about analyzing the relationship. Just look at you and ask yourself, what do I need to heal? Ask yourself, how does my mind work? And how did my mind create this very strong attachment to the point where that person is no longer with me and I feel... Ask yourself, what was the process that brought you from this amazing relationship to now here you are alone, and why is it that your mind needs to be healed? What is it within you that needs to be healed right now? And by looking deeper at yourself and understanding the nature of your mind and the nature of consciousness itself, now you can get beyond the point where these kinds of things are going to really create a tremendous amount of emotional upheaval within you. And sublimation is the bridge to that. If you're heartbroken, get up every morning and jog. But as you jog, make sure you're understanding the deeper nature of your mind and understanding yourself on a deeper level. Because it's not just about sublimation, because you'll go from one serious problem to what could potentially be a distraction. Now, sublimation can actually help you evolve, but the goal is to evolve on a deeper level where you can break up with someone, but in a healthy way. And if you're feeling unhealthy, you're feeling sick, you lost your appetite, that means that there's something in the manner in which you attached that you need to understand and analyze. Understand and analyze the nature of you. Take this time to fill the space with you. You lost what you feel as a part of yourself, then that means yourself has to grow. If you feel like you lost a part of yourself because you lost this other person, then that means you have to become more magnanimous, more magnificent. Grow yourself, nurture yourself, love yourself, but look deeper into yourself and build a relationship with you now. And the more powerful your relationship is with you, the faster you can heal. But also, you'll have better relationships. And if your relationships do end, once you build yourself up and connect with yourself, you'll be able to let go with more ease. Attachment won't be a crippling thing. You can love someone without being attached to the point where losing them will totally destroy you. You will be totally in control of your relationship with yourself, which allows you to have more control over your reaction to the end of other relationships. And this is the time for you to get to know you and look at the nature of your mind, look at the nature of relationships and love, period, and gain a deeper understanding so you can become a strong person. Now, this is something else that was very important to me. Step 3 of overcoming heartbreak. Making and fulfilling promises. But these promises are not promises to other people. They're promises to you. And I refer to that as kind of like self-prayer. Now, I know for a lot of people who are religious and see things from a religious perspective, you feel like that's a form of idolatry. You might feel like self-prayer is evil. No, it's not evil at all. Because I personally believe, and I hope, if you are religious, even people who believe in a religion, you understand that God, the force that created the entire universe, the higher consciousness, is infinite. If it's infinite, that means it's everywhere. So if it's everywhere, that means that, yes, God is inside of you. So why not talk to yourself and ask the God within you, which is you, to empower you so that you can create the existence and the life that you want. And I believe in making promises to myself and fulfilling those promises. I believe in self-prayer. I believe in saying to myself, you know what, I'm going through something really harsh. I'm going through something that's really hurtful to me right now. And I believe in saying to myself, I want you to find a way to get us out of this. But make us stronger, make us better so we won't make the same mistakes again. Now that's kind of vague. Usually my self-prayers are more specific. I want you to begin the process of getting to know yourself better. So you're spending more time alone because of quarantine and you're not going out, you're not seeing your friends as much. So I want you to use this time and promise me that you're going to read every day, read more, stimulate your mind more. Promise me that individuals who are on a similar spiritual path as you, you're going to reach out to them and keep in contact with them. Individuals you know who are yogis, individuals you know who meditate and teach meditation, reach out to them more. Or it could be, you know what, today is a rough day, but I promise myself that tomorrow for 15 minutes, I'm not going to do anything but feel a very deep sense of joy. Provide me with that. Tomorrow, just give me 5 minutes of inner peace. Tomorrow, just provide me with 10 minutes of relaxation. Provide me with, just 1 hour out of the day tomorrow where I won't feel this crushing agony. And guess what? When you pray to yourself, you offer yourself a self-prayer, and give yourself an offering. Same way people do with a religious external entity, you can do the same things for yourself and say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to give myself an offering. My offering might be I might write myself a poem about how much I love myself. Or my offering might be a gift to myself. Or my offering might just be time alone. My offering might be spending, a day just walking around in the park. Whatever offering you can offer your internal God to make you able to change your reality emotionally, mentally, spiritually, give yourself that offering, give yourself that gift, and I promise you, you will answer your prayers. Now, I'm not saying that you should get rid of your God concept or get rid of your religion. I hope I'm not frightening anyone when I say that, but yes, pray to yourself. Offer something to yourself, and your prayers will be answered. Give yourself that much love and respect. Why not? Why is it that we're so hesitant to give ourselves the highest levels of love, but we instinctively and instantaneously are willing to give ourselves levels of hate? We get mad at ourselves, we doubt ourselves, but when I say give yourself the same love that you would give to a divine being, and all of a sudden everybody gets nervous and afraid. Self-prayer, you can't pray to yourself, but you can cuss yourself out and call yourself a loser. I can't pray to myself, but I can write, I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself on a piece of paper. Which I don't do that. I don't want anybody to be alarmed. I don't do that. But there are individuals out there who will do that without hesitation. Things aren't working in a relationship. It's my fault. I hate myself. Right? You can do that with ease. You can do that without batting an eyelash. but I love myself and I'm going to give myself an offering and pray to myself, oh, I can't possibly. I can give myself the deepest hate, but I can't give myself the deepest adoration. That's idolatry. But hating yourself, that's not blasphemy. Worshiping yourself is idolatry. Hating yourself is not blasphemy. You see how twisted our thinking is? The idea of self-love is so painful and brutal for people. You can't possibly imagine. You can't possibly imagine being in a situation where you could love yourself that much. Where you could pray to yourself and say, you know what? I know you're strong. I know you're powerful. I know you can get through this. Please help me have a better day tomorrow. Oh, I can't. No, I can't do that. No. I gotta pray to somebody up there. I can't pray to me. Well, if you believe that God is infinite, God is here. Why not pray here, in your own heart, in the temple of your own heart, in the temple of your own body? This is the house of God. Why can't I reach here for the divine energy to help me heal through this painful time? I have to reach up there and question and doubt. But when I reach here for the divine energy, I'm always relieved at the sense of love that I feel, the sense of security I feel, and the speed in which my prayers are answered. And this is not an atheistic teaching. I believe in a higher power, but I believe the higher power lends me his strength so that I can heal. And what's wrong with that? Now, this is the next part. The next part is tough. The next part is brutal. Forgiveness. Now, in the past, I used to actually joke with people, and I used to say, I don't forgive. I would rather forget than forgive anyone. I would rather pretend as if it never happened. I would rather accept you back in my life and pretend as if somehow what occurred never occurred, because I can't forgive. And it's tough, especially when you feel you've been wronged. You feel like to forgive somebody means that what they did to hurt you doesn't mean anything. And by extension, that means you don't mean anything, and nobody wants to feel that way. Especially if you've been in a relationship where you feel you've been neglected. You feel you've been neglected. You feel you've had people turn their back on you. You feel you've had an individual who you really love and care about not give you the same amount of love and respect. And then here you are telling yourself that what happened to you is something that's forgivable, meaning that how you felt doesn't mean anything. Or that's how we translate it in our thoughts. And that's very difficult. It's extremely difficult to put yourself in a situation where you honestly are treating yourself as if what happened to you, no matter how hurtful, no matter how painful, no matter how much agony you had to go through after the fact, you're basically trying to convince yourself that how you feel doesn't matter, so you can forgive this other person who probably won't care anyway. Or in some instances, you'll offer someone forgiveness, but they never apologized. In their mind, they felt like they didn't do anything wrong. As much as you hurt, they feel like nothing. And that makes it harder to forgive when you're with someone who has a difficult time acknowledging when they're wrong, or who never acknowledge when they're wrong. I'm supposed to forgive you, and you don't even care. You don't think you did anything wrong. And we hold on to all these negative emotions, and that's why we have to forgive. Not because what they did is okay, but because we have to alter our perception of the situation so that we can let go of all these triggers and all this negative attachment. We have triggers so that sometimes when we see our significant other and we're not with them anymore, just seeing them can frustrate you, aggravate you, break your heart, make you think negatively of yourself. Just listening to the sound of their voice, just hearing them criticize, just hearing them ask you questions can trigger you. That's why you forgive. So that you can let go of your triggers. You forgive so that all of the things you're holding inside of you that are going to inevitably react and respond to thoughts in the presence of your significant other, you forgive so you can let all of that go. It's a necessary part of healing. And healing requires that we get rid of our triggers. Certain things might trigger me. I'm not going to lie. Because I'm holding on to all this anger. Of course I'm going to get triggered. You got anger and bitterness inside of you, something's going to trigger you so that it comes out. You have a reservoir of rage inside of you, something's going to trigger you and it's going to come out. But once you're able to forgive, the anger subsides. The rage subsides, the bitterness subsides, and guess what? You're not triggered anymore. Which doesn't mean that your relationship with your significant other is going to become perfect. Far from it. Far from it. But one thing I will tell you, learning to forgive allows you to experience the present moment. It allows you to forgive yourself. Because quite often what happens is we can't forgive other people because we can't believe that we were susceptible to another person's negativity, susceptible to their deceptions. If you're with someone who took advantage of your low self-esteem or you feel like you were taken advantage of, it's difficult to forgive. It's difficult to forgive yourself. But once you start examining the process and going through the process of forgiving the other person and returning to a state of equilibrium with them, you let go of all that anger. That's what forgiveness is about. It's about letting go of your anger. I think that's the reason why the biblical God is so forgiving. Because you read the Old Testament of the Bible, it's full of rage. He's an angry God. He's a jealous God, right? In the Old Testament. In the New Testament, he's a forgiving God. He had to let all of that go. Think about how many times he wiped out tribes and wiped out the entire human race in the Old Testament. But in the New Testament, he was able to forgive. That's the reason. That's the reason why. That's the reason why the whole human species is able to continue. If you look at the world from a Christian perspective, you had to learn how to forgive. And I don't mean that in a blasphemous or disrespectful manner, but you'll notice the evolution of the narrative of the Bible. It goes from I am a jealous God to I forgive and turn the other cheek. Forgiveness is that bridge that leads us from one state to another state. And if you can't forgive, you're going to get stuck as the jealous God. When you want to love again, all that bitterness and anger that you're holding inside of you, it's going to still be there. It's going to still be there. It's not going anywhere because forgiveness is the release. You have to forgive in order to release the pain and the anger and the bitterness and the rage that's inside of you. That's why we forgive. It's not even really for the benefit of the other person. Forgiveness is a kind of a self-healing act. It's about you. It's about you getting rid of your triggers so that the other person no longer has power of attachment over you. I forgive you because I don't want to be mad at you. And even though the other person might not even notice the struggles that you're having inside, they might not be aware of any of the stuff. It's not about them. See, that's the old way of thinking still lingering within you because you still have these emotions and you still have that connection with the other person. You still have that connection with the other person, so you're still thinking about how they feel and their perspective of things and whether or not they'll be cognizant. You have to get past that. You have to get past that in order to heal a heartbreak. You have to.